You do not need to count calories to lose weight. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 methods you can use to lose weight without having to be a slave to tracking food on an app, which can be as inaccurate as 30%. You've probably been told if you want to lose weight, you need to track your calories. But I'm here to tell you, you don't. I have never tracked a single meal on an app ever. And I lost 3 stone in 6 months working from home. I've cut weight for multiple fights. And more recently, I lost a stone in 30 days and done my first photo shoot. And I've also helped over 300 remote workers lose between 5 and 40 kilograms. All without tracking a single meal. In fact, I couldn't show them how to track meals because I don't actually know how to use the apps. Now, there are people out there who are happy to track every single gram they put into their mouth to get results. If this is you and it works for you and you're happy to rely on an app for the rest of your life, perfect. This video is not for you. But if you're thinking, surely people were able to lose weight before these apps were invented. Surely I don't need to pull my scales out every single time I want to eat. And surely there's other more sustainable ways to do this. Well, if that sounds like you might want to listen to these 3 methods. Okay, quickly, before we look at these 3 methods, we need to understand why counting calories just doesn't work for most people. At this point, I've taken over 1,000 consultation calls. And this is the exact cycle I see every single week. Firstly, you realize you need to lose weight and see online you need to be tracking your calories.
Everyone should track their calories and macros.
And your calories. I use an app called
tracking my calories for 10 years, and this is what I've...
You then download an app and proceed to start tracking every single bite you put into your mouth. You then realise the inconvenience of tracking calories on office days, on meals out, on spontaneous snacking. And then you conflate it with being annoying and inconvenient, meaning you must be doing something right. You then lose some weight initially, but then soon plateau, and you get frustrated. So what do? You then think, you know what, let's bring the calories down even lower to make sure I'm making progress. So you'll drop 200, then 400, and then before you even know it, you're in a severely unhealthy calorie deficit, but still barely making any progress. At this point, you're starving all the time, you have zero energy, and you've developed a very poor relationship with food and dieting. And then most people, and I'm not saying all, but most will then quit and just think they're doomed. But let's change that. Method number 1, the 9-20 rule. Now, most people's plates look like this. Big old batch of carbohydrates, bit of protein in there, and a bit of veg if you fancy. But here's how we're going to change that. Whenever you have a plate of food, imagine the hands on a clock pointing to 9:20. That's going to divide the plate into 3 portions. The largest portion is where you're going to fill up the veggies. The second largest portion, put in your protein source, so chicken, mince, steak, or if you're veggie, tofu, lentils. And then that last smallest section, that's going to be your starchy carbohydrates. So rice, pasta, potatoes. There is no reason to cut out carbohydrates, but you do need to be careful because these are the easiest to overeat. Why? Well, 1, they're the most satisfying. We all love pasta, chips, breads. But 2, they are the least filling. You could easily have a full plate of pasta and have room for seconds. Full plate of steak on the other hand? Probably not. These 2 factors together are a recipe for overeating. Pardon the pun. But having that section is going to help us control our carb intake. So having most of the plate with veggies, which won't have as many calories as the starchy carbohydrates, and a good section allocated to protein, which is going to be important for staying full, making sure you're losing fat and not muscle, and increasing the amount of calories you take to digest the food. And if you use this 90% of the time, you're going to be all set. Now, when it's not in control, for example, you're eating out, stick till the end because I'm going to show you how to apply all 3 methods in all scenarios. Method number 2, and this is actually my favorite one and the one I advise my clients to use, and that is the hand method. So quite simply, you're going to be using your hand to measure the food you are putting in your plate. All you need to do is remember this: a hand size of protein, fist size portion of carbohydrates, and 2 fists of veggies, and 1 thumb of fat, so things like oils and butters that you're going to be cooking in. Now, these are just estimates, they don't have to be exact, so don't be going drawing handprints all over your plates, but at the same time, try and be as accurate as possible. Okay, method 3, our last one is going to be where you don't have to measure anything, and that's the single ingredient diet. So, as with all of these, clues in the name. You only have foods that have single ingredients in them. For example, chicken breast, mince, steak, vegetables, I'm not going to name all the vegetables, potatoes, rice, quinoa, anything that is 1 natural ingredient. So why does this work? Because of 1 simple rule: counting calories will never factor in. Not all calories are created equal. And there have been multiple studies to back this up. My favourite being the studies they've done comparing 2 different sandwiches, both of which had the exact same calories, but one was far more processed than the other. See, when you eat, your body takes energy to digest the food. We alluded to this earlier when I was talking about protein. When something has been processed, chances are it won't be a single ingredient food anymore. In the case of the sandwich, the one which was unprocessed took twice as many calories to digest than the processed one. That is huge when it comes to fat loss. It's like buy one get one free. More processed foods are designed to pack a ton of calories in and keep you craving more, which is why when I get a pack of Yum Yums from Greggs, I can never not eat the whole packet. But very unlikely I'm going to be doing that with a single unprocessed food, like an apple or a steak or a jacket potato. Now, I'm not telling you to only eat single ingredient foods ever. I know I couldn't. But all you can do is focus 90% of what you eat being single ingredients, and then add in your favorite multiple ingredient foods 5 to 10% of the time. Now, none of these three methods are ever going to work without following these tips as well. Firstly, we need to talk about liquid calories. And I'm going to keep this one quite simple. Cut them out as much as possible. Instead of having a caramel latte, have a black coffee with some low calorie flavoring. Instead of having a Coke, have a Diet Coke. And hopefully it goes without saying, but you want to keep your alcohol intake as low as possible. 2, let's talk about snacking. I would schedule in a time every day you have a snack. I would either have it at a time where you're usually peckish, so for me that's usually around 3-4 p.m, or I would schedule it in straight after a meal. That way you're way less likely to binge, as you should already be full from the meal. And I'd also highly recommend having fruit and a protein bar or a protein shake in at some point throughout the day. And yes, I know protein bars have a ton of ingredients in them, but it's a great way to hit your protein goal and still satisfy your sweet tooth. 3, eating out. When it comes to eating out, do as much as you can. Now, that doesn't mean just turn up to the restaurant and order a Diet Coke instead of a beer. That's not doing everything you can. Actually try and do what you can. Check the menu before you go out. Look for that higher protein option. Don't be having a starter, main, dessert, sides. Have a main and then maybe have one of the others. And don't be asking for more of that free bread at the Turkish. Actually do what is in your control. But if you're eating out once every now and then, you'll be fine. 4, being hungry. Now, when it comes to managing your hunger, I'm going to tell you something most coaches are too polite to tell you. While yes, you shouldn't be starving all the time and you shouldn't be finishing every single meal hungry, that is definitely a red flag and you are not doing things right. But at the same time, there are going to be times when you are going to be hungry. That is completely normal. Now, there are different methods to managing that hunger, and if you'd like, I can do a separate video on that. Just let me know in the comments. But we have gone most of human history being hungry. Uber Eats is still a relatively new concept to our evolution. So if there's a couple of hours before dinner you feel hungry, that is completely fine. You are not going to drop dead. There is nothing wrong with being a little bit hungry. And the last point, more of a tool, and that's to pick a time window for when you're going to be eating. Some people like to call this intermittent fasting, but let's call a spade a spade. All you're doing is just restricting yourself from when you can eat. There's nothing magical about it. All that autophagy and insulin resistance garbage has been debunked, but it is a great tool, as obviously if you eat less hours in the day, you're likely to eat less food. So here's how to best approach it. Delay your breakfast by a couple of hours and set a cut-off time at the end of the day, 2 to 3 hours before bed, and then after that, don't eat any more food. It will take a bit of getting used to, but your body will soon get accustomed to it. And there you go. Now you can go and delete all those apps for good. Now, do not go and try and implement everything I've just said overnight. Start small. So maybe first week you start doing your lunches and mapping that out. Then second week you start doing your dinners. Then the third week you look to address your liquid calories, and so on and so forth. Find which method works best for you and don't rush trying to get there. Because the good news, you only have to find the right one for you once, and then you're set for life. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe to my page. Now, you can be eating everything perfectly, but if you haven't got a workout plan, you're probably not going to see the best changes in the mirror. So make sure you give this video a watch next. And if you want to apply to work one-on-one with me, there'll be a link in the description. And I'll see you in the next one.